Starscream here, and I am the Lord and Master of the Geekcast Radio Network. Don't tell Megatron.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your Cinema Geeks, Optimus Solo, and joining me for today's episode, our fellow Cinema Geeks, Hard Candy Mandy.
Hey.
Hey, Movie Revolt Dan.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. And for the Scent, hello.
Hey, that's what everyone says.
We had like 3 crescendoing levels of hey, I think, in there. I like it. Today we are back with another one of our episodes in another one of our series, because we like to do different series, and today we're going back to revisit another chunk of our top 100 films of all time. That's right, we all personally made our top 100 list, and we've been revealing them bit by bit, and today we are revealing numbers 30 through 21, so we're getting ever so close to our top films of all time. Before we get into the actual countdown, obviously we have some other series going on as well that we do hope you check out. We have been going through every video game live-action film that has ever been made, or at least the original one of each series. So we're making our way through that. I think we're just past the halfway point, I believe. So that's good news. And we're also continuing our Miyazaki Spotlight, which we are going down to the last couple episodes of that Spotlight. So if you have enjoyed that, make sure you check out the end. We'll have some special things going on as that Spotlight concludes. Other than that, we also still have our video game Spotlight contest going on, where you can win a 6-pack of movies. All you got to do is go to iTunes and leave a review for Cinema Geeks. So we will give you an update on our next video game film as far as how many entries we have so far, but we'll save that for another day. Before we get into the countdown, Dan, how are you liking this process so far, and are you excited about 30 through 21?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a very random assortment of movies. A lot of some old stuff, some new stuff, some blockbuster stuff, some more, French films, I guess you would say. I don't know how you would go about it, but it's getting interesting. It's really getting down to the nitty gritty now. So it's.
Yeah, it should be getting easier and easier for us to talk about the films that are on our list, and to maybe even be more passionate than we have been up to this point. We did have one comment on the website on our last section that was curious why we all continue to apologize for our movies, or placing them too low or too high. So he wants us to be a little bit more definitive and passionate, I think, about our choices. We have nobody to apologize. These are our lists, right, Amanda?
I ain't apologizing about shit.
Amanda, how many decades will we be seeing on your section today?
2.
Okay. Anything else that you want to say about today's chunk, or how are you feeling about it? Excited to get into this?
Yeah, looking at these films on this chunk, I'm pretty excited about them. Some of the other films in my list, I start to question myself when we're revealing them. I'm like, how did I rank this above something else that I super love? I think the ranking is the hardest part, especially kind of in the middle and towards the end. It's sad to put some of these so low in this top list here, but I think towards the top we should be feeling good about where we slot these.
Absolutely, Matt. I think you kind of tipped your hand a little bit on the last episode we did in our top 100 when we revealed 40 through 31 that today's episode might be featuring a few superhero films. Is that correct?
Oh, that is very accurate. Well, I mean, yeah, at least a third of them.
Okay. I'm interested to see, too, as we get closer and closer, how much more crossover we have. We've seen a few of them here and there. I think we've had at least one film that's either been on 3 of our lists or all 4. I can't remember if it actually made it onto all 4 or not. So we'll see as we get closer and closer if we start to see some more of those crossovers. And for my section of the list, I am featuring 4 different decades. So we are kind of just randomly going all over the place. I checked just for curiosity's sake, I checked the Rotten Tomato scores of the films that I'm doing today, and 7 out of the 10 are 90% to 100%. So I only have 3 that were actually rated below a 90%. I was kind of surprised by that.
Well, look at you. I got 2 movies with Jeff Goldblum in it, so look at me.
So you win.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just curious to see how much some of these would line up or not line up, because we get to that point. I think somebody posted on Twitter this last week or something like that about Dan. I think you saw this too, about films that you love more than anybody else. And that's the only reason I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes, is because I was curious. I'm like, are there more than I think that are just films that only I like, or are some of these more universally praised? But there's definitely going to be one or two that show up in here that I think I'm a little higher on than some other people, maybe, or the masses, I guess. So, any other comments that anybody wants to put out there before we get into the actual countdown?
Actually, I kind of wanted to.
Go for it.
Part of me really wants to wager, like, in the top 20 or 15, how many we have in common, and like see how close we all get. If that interests anybody.
Top 20 or top 30? Do you want to do it before we start revealing or after the episode?
I thought we should do it before we start revealing, but I guess if we do 20, we don't have to wait. We can wait until the next episode.
I'm up for whatever. I'm willing to wager whenever, whatever.
I mean, I'll do top 30. That might make it a little harder to guess.
So
especially because we're all very disparate.
So what are we guessing? Are we guessing how many are going to show up on at least 2 lists, 3 lists, 4 lists? What are we doing?
Oh, it's got to be 3 or 4, right?
Okay. So
yeah, I say go all 4. Go all 4. Go big or go home.
I agree with that.
So Matt, it was your idea, which means we're going to put you on the spot first in the top 30. How many are going to be all on all 4 people's lists?
Well, I feel like I'm cheating because I get to look at my list, and
you also get to see what years they came out and if they were in the 90s or not.
Yeah, I mean that's our best bet, isn't it? I'm gonna go what might seem really low. I'm gonna go with 4.
4 of them. Amanda, what do you think?
Looking at my list, I don't even know, you guys. Maybe, yikes. Let's say 2.
2. Dan, they're going pretty low. What do you think?
So to clarify, what if it's like a situation where I chose, we were, for Kevin and I, for example, we chose a franchise for, instead of having all the Police Academy movies, we just chose our favorite Police Academy
that you
movie.
chose Police Academy as the franchise.
Because that's going to be in all of ours, and that was a gimme, right?
I think it counts if it's any of them in the franchise.
I was going to say, I think if it's any in the franchise, it counts as 1, right? Like, because
okay.
if I say Batman, you can't be like, well, I had Batman, so that's 9 we have together.
And are we also counting they had to show up in all of our top 30s, or just...
Yeah, it's got to be top 30,
Okay,
right?
all of our top 30s. So Dan, with that information, what are you thinking here?
So I'll go 5. I'll go 5.
All right, 5. So we got a 2, a 4, and a 5. Whew. I'll be the foolish one. I'm trying to remember a couple of these have already been mentioned by some people. I'll go 6. I'll go a little bit higher, and see how that works out. But I might kick myself because there's a few that have already been released that would have been shoo-ins for me, I would have thought. So we have 2, 4, 5, and 6 as far as films being on everybody's list. Matt, what do we win if we're right?
We've got until we get to number 1 before we have to figure that out, don't we?
Excellent. I like that style.
I'll throw an idea out there. What if, like, the person who wins gets to pick a movie we all have to watch and review?
I really like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so with that and the stakes being set here for what's about to be revealed, let's get right into it. Matt, you start us off, as usual, with your number 30.
All right, for my number 30, I know it's been mentioned, and I'm a little surprised at how high it is on my list, but I'm not going to apologize because it's my list. And that's the classic Doctor Strangelove.
Excellent.
When I first watched this, it was interesting because my dad bought a $1,000 Betamax tape player in the 70s or 80s. And that's a real big sticking point to him. He's like, I spent so much money on that and I'm never getting rid of it. And sometime maybe a decade ago, he was converting all of the old, anything he recorded off TV or anything he recorded using the camcorder. And two of those things, one was Doctor Strangelove and one was Purple Rain. He converted into DVD, and me and my buddies took and watched. And well, one's great and one's great. And Doctor Strangelove, I mean, it's one of them thinking movies. It's not just a pure entertainment, and somehow it seems relevant every day of my life, even though it was written for a time decades before I was ever alive.
Amanda, have you seen this one?
No.
Blind spot for me as well. If that tips your hand on to if it's going to show up on all four people's lists or not.
It was already on mine, so.
I was going to say, I knew going in we were good.
Yeah, I definitely, another one, yeah, like I said, a classic film that we got to get around to watching. So, all right, Amanda, what's your number 30?
A little bit different than Dr. Strangelove. It's a little 1990 joint here. Dances with Wolves. What? Kevin Costner, Mary McDonnell. It's such an awesome story, and the emotions that range in this, and the amazing relationships, and like the gravity of everything that's going on is super amazing. I love it.
All right, yeah, I got a lot. I haven't seen that one. I don't think since the '90s, but I remember enjoying it when I watched it. But I would not be able to tell you more than like two things about it, so I need to maybe revisit that one soon.
I really like anything with like Native American stuff in it. And this is a story that I could watch with my mom and my grandma, and they loved it too. So I've seen it quite a bit.
All right, so Dances with Wolves, Kevin Costner making an appearance in the top 30. For my number 30, I'm not going to talk about it a lot because it came up in the last episode that we did. I believe Amanda had it at 31. So you had it at 31, I have it at 30, and I'm going with Fight Club from 1996 from David Fincher. Surprisingly, this is one of the three films that I was mentioning that is not a 90% or above on Rotten Tomatoes. It's actually down in the 70s, in the 79. But like I said last episode, the multi-layer aspect of this film and how much you can dig into it and take away from it and the kind of the cultural impact it had, I think speaks for itself. I don't think we need to go too much more into Fight Club, so that is my number 30. Dan, where do you start today?
I'll be kind of starting with the movie I somewhat, in a way, talked about, because I talked about its remake, its American remake, and now I'm going to be talking about the original. I mentioned I want to get all over the place and talk about a variety of different movies. I guess I'm going to start with a more classic film from 1953, The Wages of Fear. I talked about Sorcerer many episodes ago. It was in my 60s, and that was the American remake of this. And it's the basic premise of this is very simple. It's just that there's this South American city that is basically as poor can be. There's really no work, almost no food, no water. It's very isolated. But some individuals get the opportunity to transport these across some really dangerous territory. The issue is it's nitroglycerin, and they have to try to basically take it to a location without blowing up. And it leads to some really incredible, really tense action sequences, really well done set pieces. And for a movie that's from the 1950s, it still holds up really well. I will say the first hour, it goes on pretty long. It's very slowly paced, but once you kick into the final moment, it's pretty amazing. And it got me into enjoying the original, and I could see a lot of people probably enjoying the original more because I think it's made me pace a little bit better, but it's really what got me into it. It's one of those movies too that kind of I appreciated more of the dramatic aspect of the classic films, but it was actually one of the few thrillers from that time that really worked for me as well. So again, it's Wages of Fear. It came out in 1953.
What year did you say that the remake came out in?
I want to say the 70s.
Okay.
Let me double check.
And what the original one was from where? I
want to say it was a French film, but okay. I really don't know off the top of my head. The 1977. It was directed by William Friedkin, Sorcerer, which obviously is the guy who also did like The Exorcist. So.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so a wide variety there from all of our number 30s. Let's see where it goes from here as Matt reveals his number 29.
My number 29 is one of them superhero films. And I put down Iron Man 3. Like specifically Iron Man 3, I think is the best of the three Iron Man films we've gotten. I'm of the opinion that so far every Marvel movie, like the first one has been great. The second one's been less so, and the third one's been the best. And I think that holds true of all of the ones that have gotten 3. And the only one that I think might even not be along that line is Guardians of the Galaxy. But I think it's really hard to compare the two, especially how recent it is. But Iron Man 3 just, like, is so much fun. Like, fun is what I want when I go to the movies. I want it to be bonkers, over the top, and fun, while still being logical and a story I can follow and relate to. And I think Iron Man 3 did that, like, perfectly. I love, like, the a million Iron Mans at the end. Like, I love that that they tried to do the damsel thing, but did a turnaround on it where it's not just the damsel in distress. Like I love Iron Man 3, and I've watched it. Like, I've been reading comics all my life, and I love what they did with the Mandarin. Anyone who complains about that probably didn't read actual Mandarin comics, because that dude was lame in the comic books. He had 10 rings that could do random things. Like, one of them was his door opening ring. That's real cool. That's real interesting. He can open doors with a ring, but not if they're locked.
Oh, his biggest menace was the key. That was the key.
Love Iron Man 3.
Amanda, what do you think? Or go ahead, Dan.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was gonna say I love Iron Man 3 too, and I agree. I love the Mandarin twist. I think it's one of the best things Marvel's did. As Matt mentioned, like, before, Mandarin has always been like this lamest. It's the first time that character was interesting and relevant. And I love this Ben Shane Black put on it. It really does feel like a buddy cop movie from the 80s. And I don't know. I think a lot of people hate that movie, and I don't get it. But I do really. I still probably enjoy Iron Man 1 more, but I got a lot of love for Iron Man 3.
I don't get the reason that people dislike Iron Man 3 either. I'm 100% with you guys. I enjoyed Iron Man 3 quite a bit, and I liked the Mandarin twist. And it's like the go-to movie when you get the constant complaint of every Marvel film is the same. It's like, did you see Iron Man 3? Because it wasn't anything in the same vein as what we had seen beforehand. So I don't get that argument. I enjoyed Iron Man 3 quite a bit as well. Amanda, you didn't have a problem with that twist either, did you?
No, I liked it. I think it had a lot of heart and some awesome moments.
All right. What is your number 29 then?
I don't know if I have to say a lot about this. DJ should be proud of me. Okay, so my number 29 is from 1998 and is Disney's Mulan. Bitch saves China.
Wait, you can't defend Mulan now.
Yes,
You're on record
you
going
haven't
against
heard
her.
Little Mermaid off my list yet, have you? So somebody's still topping somebody here, right?
All right, so Mulan.
I was super excited seeing the previews as a kid, waiting for this movie. It looked amazing. It looked, the preview was like tense as hell, and I think it had some amazing visuals. Eddie Murphy was brilliant as Mushu. I think the voice work and the songs were amazing. I think Donny Osmond did like the singing too in this. So it's just a real fun ride. It's scary too. I mean, the stakes are super high, especially for a Disney movie here. Everybody's parents, though, survived. I'm going to put that out there. Pixar, what up? And I think that it definitely was a bright spot for me in that era in Disney.
All right, so a little Mulan love unexpectedly coming from Hard Candy Mandy here. DJ will be proud. For my number 29, I'm going to the 1980s, 1988 specifically, for probably one of the first more, I don't know, I guess you could call it more dramatic pieces that I remember from my childhood, and that was when I watched the film Rain Man with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. First of all, love Dustin Hoffman, a huge fan of his, and this was just a film that when I saw it, I don't remember if I'd ever seen anything quite like it, and it just kind of like took me aback and showed me another side of what film can do. And I don't know, maybe since then I've always been more of a dramatic film fan. And yeah, I do love my sci-fi and my fantasy, etc. But I think after that it goes almost straight to more dramatic roles and dramatic films. And I like the subject matter that's incorporated. And not to say that there's not funny moments in comedy throughout this as well. There obviously is. But I enjoyed Rain Man quite a bit. So it's high enough to get up to my number 29.
I'm a very good driver.
There's so many quotable lines from this, I won't spout them all off. Dan, what's your number 29?
It's funny when you said one of the first dramatic films you watched as a kid. I was like, wow, when's going to be one I have coming up, but it's not because it's the same similar situation. I promise I didn't plan this, but I think this is a movie. I know Kevin, I think you maybe have just watched for the first time recently. I think maybe last week or the week before. And it's a director I've talked about many times, and I will probably talk about again before this countdown is all over and done with. But for Martin Scorsese, Taxi Driver is my next one for number 29. I think I mentioned to you on Twitter, Kevin, that when I talk about character studies, to me, Taxi Driver is the go-to. It is like the measuring stick I use, or what I rate off of. Amazing performance by De Niro, and just it by all means feels like a 70s film, and it in the best ways, just like especially a New York 70s movie. Some incredible characters. Scorsese, I think, really kind of almost unhinged in a way. Like I don't think necessarily has the polish that he'll get in something like Raging Bull or other films, but there's just a rawness to Taxi Driver that really attracts me, and maybe De Niro's best performance, one of the most iconic characters of all time, but I honestly didn't like it as much as the first time I saw it, but after rewatching it a few times, I own it on Blu-ray, I've really grown in my appreciation for Taxi Driver.
Matt, have you seen Taxi Driver?
No, I think I haven't seen any of the movies that you guys just listed.
I'll let
No, in
Amanda.
fact, no, I haven't.
I'll let Amanda go first, since obviously we did just watch this within a week or two of this record. What was your Dan said he didn't necessarily like it as much the first time? Did you appreciate Taxi Driver your first time, or what do you think?
Man, I don't know. There's a lot of sick stuff in it that was hard for me to get by, but I think Robert De Niro's performance was amazing, and the story is crazy and outrageous, and sometimes a little bit too true. Some of these things couldn't really have happened, especially with people like dealing with certain aspects of like mental illness or things like that, and so that was a little hard to get through, but I think his performance is so amazing that it's definitely worth a watch.
I think it's definitely one of the most memorable characters of all time when it comes to film, and I think it might be something. Maybe I'll have a similar experience, Dan, where the more I watch it, or the more I get familiar with it, the higher it'll rise. Obviously, I hadn't seen it when I made this list, so it didn't kind of play a part into my top 100 at that point. I also, what I think I appreciate maybe most about the film, and this is what my immediate reaction was seconds after watching it to Amanda, was I think it highlights something that's very true about life, and how easily and how quickly your life can take a completely different path out of whether it's luck, happenstance, or coincidence or whatever, by the slightest change of one action or something like that. It's the classic, time travel type thing, how, if you change one little thing, it can have this huge effect. But De Niro's character, especially in that final act, goes from one outcome to another outcome, and they're so drastically different, and it's not even necessarily, 100% by choice necessarily. So I really kind of like that element, and kind of like how you can kind of dig into that a little bit and see how that affects the outcome of his character in that film. So I think there's a lot to like, and I think it's a very memorable character for sure. All right, so those are all of our number 29s. That brings it back to you, Matt, for number 28.
So I went back on my list real quick and looked, and it seems on every 10 guys, I have at least one comic book movie. So I don't know if this is a particularly superhero heavy one, but I'm going to back Iron Man 3 up with Captain America 3.
Nice.
And I think it's Captain America 3 that puts it over, because I think Captain America 1 wasn't as good as Iron Man 1. Although Captain America 2 was way better than Iron Man 2. But I love Iron Man 3, and I love Captain America 3. Like, it's just, like, I like it better than Avengers 2. Like, it's so good. Like, the way they brought in everyone, and there's just a massive cast, but it doesn't feel like, oh man, I didn't get enough of anyone. Like, you get enough of everyone. Like, sure, Ant-Man's in there for 10 seconds, but he's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie. Like he does a perfect amount of job with the amount of time he has. Like that, it's so good. Like Marvel just keeps hitting him out of the park, and like I'm just holding my breath this year, hoping DC does one right.
Huh? It seems like based on early reviews, and by the time this goes out, those reviews will be much more in the now that they might have at least one that people
Maybe.
are praising. So,
Hopefully.
Amanda, what do you think about Captain America?
Oh, awesome movie. I feel like I need to watch it again. I think I've only watched it the one time when we saw it in the theater, so a rewatch will be great. But the motorcycle scene, right? That was with Bucky, man, that blew my friggin' mind. Like, that was a goosebump moment. There's so many awesome scenes in this. Some really cool stuff happening, with the relationship and, like, the team dynamic, too. So, awesome stuff.
All right. Dan, any thoughts on Captain America?
Yeah, I probably personally prefer Winter Soldier, but I think a lot of that also has to do with the fact that it's one of my favorite comic book stories of all time, so it has a lot to do with that. But, yeah, I mean, I think you could argue in a way where Captain America Civil War, I think, deals with that story even better. And I know, like, one of the biggest things Marvel gets knocked for is that they're kid films, or like they're too childish in some ways, which I disagree with. And I think Civil War is the best example of that, where I think it gets into some really strong emotional beats, especially with Iron Man's character, Tony Stark, near the end. So yeah.
All right.
And there you go.
Yeah, unanimous love. I think Captain America has definitely been the most solid out of the characters, as far as its trilogy goes. It doesn't have many detractors from any of the films that I've heard. So, a lot of love for Captain America. Amanda, what do you have at number 28?
I'm gonna get real sad right here with even just mentioning this movie, okay? The description is: two childhood friends find themselves forced to be enemies. Would you guess that's 1981's The Fox and the Hound?
I was not going to guess that, no.
I would have guessed an animated movie.
Yeah, so heartbreaking. Oh my god. I love this movie, but I hate it at the same time because of how it makes me feel. I feel so bad for everybody in this movie. But it's such a marvelous just story. It's so heartbreaking but wonderful and happy and so many things mushed together. Kurt friggin' Russell, Mickey Rooney has some voices here. I think that as much as I want to show a little kid this, I don't know what age I would even want to show them this. It's so sad. It's even sadder than Bambi, man, and that's hard to do. So yeah, 28, Fox and the Hound.
For some reason, that's one of the Disney films that just doesn't stick with me in my memory. As far as I couldn't even tell you an individual scene or how the story goes or anything. Maybe I've only seen it a couple times, but maybe I need to revisit it because I don't have a strong memory of Fox and the Hound.
God, if you don't have a strong memory of Fox and the Hound, I don't even know if you've ever seen it.
I have seen it.
That sticks with you.
I have seen it.
Scarring.
I don't know. It must have been overshadowed by other movies I saw or something. I don't know. Dan, what do you think? Fox and the Hound is appropriate for what age?
Oh man, that's a good question. It's been a while since I haven't think last time I saw that was when I bought it in VHS, or my parents bought it VHS when I was younger. So probably 8-ish, around that age, I would think.
I'll take your word for it. It sounds
Maybe.
right, 8, 9, somewhere in there.
70, maybe.
All right, for my number 28, interesting that you had a Scorsese film at your number 29 because I have one at my number 28. Much more modern Scorsese film, but I just like all of the elements that it presents that are actually very much accurate from a historical standpoint. If you take them bit by bit, I guess, not as a whole, but I'm going with 2002's Gangs of New York. Another one of the films that's below 90%, 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. But I love Gangs of New York. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is absolutely amazing in this film. You got Liam Neeson, Leonardo DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz. I think there's a lot to love in this film. There's a lot of America's history that is present that you can kind of, especially if you watch special features or if you kind of break it down a little bit, there's a lot to use here, and I just think it's a compelling story. It's a little bloody, a little gruesome, maybe. Not something you want to watch maybe with your grandma or your mom or something like that, unless they're into that stuff. So maybe not for everybody, but for someone who really loves American history, it worked super well for me. So Gangs of New York from Martin Scorsese is mine, number 28. Dan?
Yeah, what I love about that too is just like it takes place or covers a part of history that is really talked about.
Right.
You know, it's just completely kind of glossed over. It's like prior to Civil War beginning, and it's a really interesting period of time.
Yeah.
You talked about, I think, last one that it was one of the first dramatic films you remember watching as a kid, and this isn't straight up drama, but it certainly has dramatic aspects, and I think as a kid, everyone wanted to go on one of those crazy adventures with all your friends, and maybe to go see a dead body, like with Stand By Me. 1986 film by Rob Reiner, Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman. It's one based upon a Stephen King novel, of course. And I just think of like coming of age films. That's one of the best for me. Came out around that time. It was one of those movies where I think I don't think I've ever like sat down when I was a kid and watched it from beginning to end, but it would just be on TV, and whatever I was doing, I'm like, okay, well, I'll be watching this from now on. and every time I see, like, if I go in the woods or someplace and I see like a body of water, I just think of the specific scene with the leeches in this movie, and of course, the train sequence and everything like that. But it's just really great child performances too by making kids who actually feel real and complete characters, and deals with some really heavy issues for those ages right before you get into high school and really become who you are. So to me, it's all-time great, which is all-time favorite, which is why it's on this list. So,
Amanda, Matt, thoughts on Stand By Me?
I don't think I've ever seen this whole movie.
Oh, it's so good. Like this is one of the most memorable movies from my childhood that I had to figure out what that movie was. It's like, what's that movie with like the pie eating contest? And I think there's a train. Like, it's so good. Like,
I mean, I know what scene you guys are talking about with the train, where they all have to like get underneath the tracks because they're on like a bridge and the train's coming, right?
Yeah.
Or at least a couple of them do. Some of them make it across. I think I've seen that scene, but whatever I caught on the TNT is what I saw of it.
This film probably would have had a great shot of making my list if I had rewatched it since the 90s, but that was the one thing that was keeping me off for that one. I kind of mentioned that early on in the countdown, was some of these films I wasn't sure how high or low I could rate them because I had only seen them once, or I hadn't seen them in over 10, 20 years, and that was the case for Stand By Me. I haven't seen it since the early 90s, so I need to revisit this one because I do remember liking it quite a bit. It was one of those that I believe it when I first got like the movie club, Columbia House or whatever it was, where you could get your VHS tapes 7 for $1 or whatever. It was one of the first ones I got, I think, and but I haven't seen it since then. So, all right, Matt, back to you for number 27.
All right, my number 27 is classic American superhero film, Love Actually. I don't know, it's like a movie Amy and I watch every Christmas, and like it really, I can really be sold a sappy love story. Like it may not seem like it, but it really is something I enjoy, even if I can't do it often because I don't like getting all movie emotional. And they tend to make me just weep openly. Like even the bad ones, like what was it, Valentine's Day, which you will never hear on my list, but definitely made me feel something. Which might be why I like goofy, silly movies. Like it's just one of those rom-coms that have like 1,000 different storylines, and at the end they all converge and everyone gets a happy story, or most of the people get a happy story. I mean, Liam Neeson's wife's still dead. And like I don't know, I just love it, and I love a good rom-com.
That really hurts when you realize that when you say that and you realize it's also kind of true in real life.
Yeah.
Oh man.
A dour note from the Cinema Geeks.
Exactly. Let's liven it up with a 90s animated film. Amanda, what do you have at number 27?
Bro, we're gonna get a little farther into the 90s again, and it's not an animated film. 1996, Independence Day. All right.
The floor is yours.
What do I need to say about this? It's an amazing movie. Will Smith, Bill Pullman, my first Jeff Goldblum film on the list for today. There will be another. And this is one of my faves from when I was younger. Like, I don't know if I was too young to watch this, but I don't think it was that bad. I don't think there was any, like, bad cussing or anything. But, like, aliens and cigar smoking, and it was just amazing. Will Smith punches an alien in the face and then drags its body across the desert. And so much intense stuff is happening. They blew up the friggin' White House. Those aliens were scary, too. Like, they were not playing, dude. This being said, the Independence Day resurgence ruined a lot of shit. But I'm going to ignore that happened and just focused on 1996 Independence Day.
All right. Any thoughts on Independence Day? Dan, Matt?
It's, as a kid, it was like one of my favorite movies growing up. I remember, like, it wasn't obviously the first blockbuster, but I felt like it entered this new echelon of blockbuster that we've now been seeing over and over again. But of course, Will Smith, that was when Will Smith was like the coolest guy ever. So.
Agreed.
I agree 100% with what Dan said. Like, I don't know of a time before this where I was like, yeah, that's the movie that was the summer movie.
Yeah, that was at a time when the movie blockbuster season was actually restrained to the summer. And that is definitely not a thing anymore. So I guess we don't get that anymore. We get them year round. I'm going to stick with science fiction for my number 27, but I'm going to go to a decade earlier, and instead of 96, I'll go down back to 1982 for Into the World of Steven Spielberg for E.T. for my number 27. I don't know what else needs to be said about E.T. I don't know if future generations have the same love for E.T. as my generation does. I guess I'm not basing that off of anything. I don't have anything to go off of on that. But for at least me and the age I was, that came out a year after I was born, so I didn't see it right away, obviously, but I remember seeing it at some it used to play at Christmas time, I think, or at least somebody had it on DVD, or not DVD, but VHS, and would play it at these Christmas functions, because I remember seeing it at my uncle's house early on at a Christmas party, and just fell in love with it, and I think that's one of the first science fiction things that I saw that kind of really made me a sci-fi lover for life, I think. Obviously, there were some other films that came around early on that helped that out, but E.T. was one of the first ones that was more geared towards kids, I felt, that also just wowed me from a lot of different levels. So E.T. from 1982 is my number 27. Amanda, you seen E.T.?
Yeah, I've seen E.T. a few times. I think it's a super fun film. I think it's another one that has a lot of heart. I've never been like, man, I just really want to friggin' watch E.T. It's always been something that I've just seen on and then sat down and watched it. I don't think I've ever, sought it out myself, but I'm never going to say no to watching it if it's on.
Matt, what do you think about E.T.?
I think that I saw it at, a really young age. I did not know it was before my birth, so I have no idea what age I was when I saw it. I definitely saw it as a kid. And I can remember bits and pieces of it, but part of me wonders how much of it I remember from watching it and how many I remember from parody and homage.
Gotcha. Dan, do you think this is something that you had to be the right age when you saw it, or is this something that's more timeless?
I recently, I saw it as a kid, and then when I went through all Spielberg's films, I watched it again, and I felt it really holds up. I think there might be a gap, watching it as a kid and then maybe watching it as an adult, because it is like watching a movie as a kid again, which I don't know if that sentence structure was awful, but basically the way Spielberg made that movie, it's all shot through the kid's perspective, and especially if you look at movie things like Stranger Things that just came around, it very much is in the tone of E.T. So I think maybe people there's certainly a huge impact, I think, on lots of groups of people. So maybe if you get older and you rewatch it, I think it'll have an impact. But I do agree, you get that special age where you are, can get invested in the story of E.T. It can be very devastating considering, the ups and downs emotionally that movie has. So I know it had one of this as a kid, one of the saddest moments I saw, and then I think I had a brother or sister that was there, and it's don't worry, everything turns out okay. One of those. So, but yeah, it's a great film. So.
All right, Dan, what do you have at your number 27?
For my number 27, I'm actually going to talk about a movie I recently just did an article on for Geekcast Radio. One of my all-time favorite documentaries, and that's Man on Wire. It's a documentary regarding this man who is attempting to, what was attempting in the 70s to, before the World Trade Centers were open, to attach a high wire between the two buildings and walk across them. And it's a crazy, incredible but true story. And it's just, I remember when I saw this in 2008, 2009, actually it was later than that. And it was about the time when everyone was like talking about the best movies of the decade between 2000 and 2009. And this was on a lot of people's lists. And I sat down and watched it, and it to me brought me to a new level of understanding when it came to documentary filmmaking, how you can use things like recreations of scenes, and it still looks good, and it doesn't look like a bad TV movie. And just the character of Philippe Patet, who was the person the movie centered on, is just, I don't know. He's a little bit crazy, but of course this was just recently redone with the Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie, which was enjoyable, but I think not as emotionally impactful as the actual documentary. So, not to sound too snotty there, but
no, I think you're. I mean, I haven't seen the documentary, but I can, just based on seeing the other part of the actual movie, that I can see how that would be the case, and especially based on people's descriptions of him as a real person, because he was, in all essence, from those accounts, a larger than life character, a character you would expect to see in a movie, because of his craziness or his personality traits or whatever. So I'd be interested to see that documentary after seeing the film, just to kind of see a little bit more of that story. Amanda, you watched the Joseph Gordon-Levitt film. What do you think of that story overall?
The way that they went about making this movie made it hard for me to feel like he was a real person. Because didn't they have it to where he like broke the fourth wall a couple times or something like that? There was some weird things that happened in the film that made it very much a movie, and it was hard for me to vest in it as him as a real person. So I think it would be interesting to see the documentary to kind of, and then maybe go back and even watch it again to kind of compare and feel then that he's a real dude and seeing this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Matt. That brings it back to you for your number 26.
All right. I guess everything's in pairs for this one, because my number 26 is The Notebook.
Oh, jeez.
Which, much like I think Independence Day was like one of my first forays into summer blockbusters. I think The Notebook might have been my first one into heart-wrenching romantic comedies, dramas. Like, it was interesting because I watched it with a guy who I guess is one of my manliest man friends, with his girlfriend at the time. Like, he was like, I was a fifth wheel for a lot of that relationship, and come to think of it, and he would always invite me to weird things, and he's like, hey, me and my lady and her friend are gonna watch a movie, you wanna come over? And I was like, sure. And like when we're walking out, he's like, man, that was a dumb movie, and I'm like sitting there going, yeah, dumb, like just fucking like heart-wrenching. I don't know if I've ever been affected by a movie as much as I had at that point in my life. And it's like, I don't know, man. What kind of soulless person doesn't feel something like that last 10 minutes is intense?
Amanda?
Oh, God. I don't want to think about it because I'm going to start crying. Like, that is an intense movie. And the ending especially is just, I don't even have words. Definitely something that impacts you and something that sticks with you. And I know that people make fun of it a lot, but it is a really like touching film, especially at the end. And thinking about it, I don't feel like crying now. But that's definitely Matt was right, because something like that affects you deeply. And I think the only other movie that I've seen that affected me in that same way was like P.S. I Love You, which I saw after that. And so I can't, it's hard for me to watch those movies because I know it's going to break me down, like, super bad.
Dan, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's the Gauze, right?
Yeah.
You have to like it. It's, I think it helped, not launch, but certainly Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling did become, I think, bigger stars because of that movie. It is a well done romantic drama, I would say, and it was almost like my current wife, and future wife, I should say. It was almost our first date, but she didn't want to go to it because she was too scared that she would cry. And she would want to cry on our first date, so we ended up not seeing The Notebook and seeing The Terminal instead. But it all worked out. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think this one maybe I think this one gets more flack because of all of the other Nicholas Sparks movies or things that came after it. That it kind of compounded the fact maybe and why people use it as a target. But yeah, I remember being somewhat emotionally, having the heartstrings tugged at a little bit during that one too. So
you've seen this?
Yeah.
I was not aware of that. Did you watch it with a girl or by yourself?
I have no recollection whatsoever. Probably with my mom and my sister.
You better let me know right now.
Those are girls.
Yes, 2 girls. Family. All right. Amanda, you're number 26.
Oh, man. I have a lot of love for this movie, and you guys better, too, okay? 1991, that's Hook. Dustin Hoffman as Hook, Robin Williams as grown-up Peter Pan, Julie Roberts as Tinkerbell, Bob Hoskins as Smee, Dante Basco as Rufio. It's a Spielberg movie. Grown-up Peter Pan has to go back into Neverland and rescue his children from Captain Hook, who has kidnapped them.
I like the fact that you were pulling your hair the entire time that you were saying that.
I was out of your face.
So we both had a Dustin Hoffman film, and we both had a Spielberg film. But I went with Rain Man and E.T., and you're going with Hook.
And don't judge, that's an amazing movie, okay?
Matt, do you share the love for Hook?
Oh yeah, loved Hook as a kid. Like, need to rewatch it as an adult because I loved it.
I've just never been a fan of anything Peter Pan. The animated movie or any of the other films or specials or anything that have come from that or since that.
Not even any of the plays or anything?
Not a lot. I mean, I'm not just a huge fan of that story overall, so maybe that's why it's not resonating as much for me. Dan,
you as a dude that won't grow up. Scott, look at your t-shirt right now. He's wearing a Transformers t-shirt. Dude can't grow up but can't like Peter Pan, the dude that doesn't want to grow up.
I don't know. For some reason, it just didn't. I couldn't connect with it.
This is too much like you. Is what
No,
it was.
that's not what I didn't think that. Dan, what do you think about Hook?
I love that as a kid. I rewatched it a few years ago, and I wasn't as high on it. But just some things didn't work for me as much as they did as a kid. But who is it? Bob Hoskins as Smee is great, and of course Dustin Hoffman as Hook. He's fantastic. But there's a lot of fun, and they're supposed to be making that like Rufio prequel movie, so you got that one.
Yeah, some like GoFundMe thing that they made up.
All right, for my number 26, I'm going to go back as far back as I'm going to go during this section of the countdown, back to 1940 for a romantic comedy entitled The Philadelphia Story, starring Jimmy Stewart, Cary Grant, and Katharine Hepburn. The only film ever to put Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant together, and I think it was magical. I think their dynamic was fantastic. I thought it was hilarious, and I did not expect, going in and watching a 1940 film to find it as funny and to be just absolutely mesmerized by the acting performances that were going on in front of me. And I think the dialogue is very good. I think the direction's very good as well. Obviously, since I have it in my top 30 here, but interesting note on that Hepburn was. It was actually made for her. The play or the screenplay was made for her, and she got complete ability to select or veto the director and actors and something else. Like, she had a lot of control over who was involved in that film, and it was actually supposed to be 2 other people, Clark Gable and somebody else instead of Stewart and Grant, but the other 2 actors were busy. Or had other commitments, so it ended up being Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant, and thank goodness it did. It actually has 100% right now on Rotten Tomatoes, but I've only seen it once, but it has stuck with me so much. I'd like to revisit it again and show Amanda this film because I think it's possibly one of, if not the best romantic comedies of all time. So The Philadelphia Story is my number 26.
The cat's trying to break into the cabinets.
Dan, what do you got?
I have a movie that I think I'm not going to say much for because I don't think this was anyone's list so far. It might have been, but it might be one that we have the possibility of being on everyone's top 30. Maybe not. I don't know. But I'm going to go with, for my number 26, is Back to the Future. When I think of movies that are the, kind of define what it is to be fun cinema, that to me is Back to the Future. I love all the films, the entire trilogy, but the first one still stands to me as one of the best. Recently, it was on Netflix, and I think it still is, and I remember one day sitting down and just watching them back to back to back, and they still hold up. Obviously very, very heavily influenced by the 80s and the 50s, and it's just a really good timepiece for more ways than one. Some of the most iconic movie characters of all time. And people obviously keep talking about them. I feel like it's a movie that's still the zeitgeist 30 years later. So it's my number 26.
Yeah, I have some issues with the third one in the series, and I think that's what brings the trilogy down a little bit for me. But I think, if you just take the first one and the second one, that's one of the best 1-2 punches that we've ever had in film. And I think the second one is probably one of the best sequels we've ever had. So agree with everything you said there on Back to the Future. Anybody else? Any thoughts on Back to the Future?
Oh man, I mean, what bad can you say about Back to the Future? I think that a ton of it's super iconic, and who doesn't know some of these references that still come up today?
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, great movies. Definitely worth a rewatch as an adult. Also, I love like a classic 80s movie that has like a theme song. But, gotta go back. It's like just like Ghostbusters or any of them. Like, I love it.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely gold. All right, so that's the first half of today's countdowns. We've revealed numbers 30 through 26. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back after the break, we're going to reveal 25 through 21. So we're into our top 25 after the break.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download the show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
Hey guys, it's Optimus Solo and
Hard Candy Mandy.
And we just wanted to let you guys know about another podcast out there that we both think you would all enjoy.
It's one of both of our favorite shows to listen to, and it's none other than the True Bromance Podcast.
True Bromance is a movie podcast hosted by longtime friends Hyro and Barry, and if you like to smile, laugh, and just be genuinely entertained while listening to movie talk, then this is definitely the right show for you.
Each week, the guys break down a recently released movie, and not only do they tie in the movie that week to the beers that they are drinking during the show,
but they also tie it into a real fun top and bottom 5 list associated with that movie.
It's a blast hearing both sides of these lists, and it definitely makes them unique amongst all other movie review podcasts.
So we definitely want to recommend all of you guys to go check out their show. Just search out the True Bromance Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and all other podcast platforms. And if you listen via iTunes, do us a favor and leave them a 5-star review. And don't forget to let them know that the Cinema Geeks sent you.
All right, thanks for sticking with us. As I said on the other side of the break, it's now time for our top 25 films. Matt, it starts with you, with your number 25.
Yeah, I think from 25 on, I don't have anything that I'm going to have to apologize for, because they're just the 25 best movies. And my number 25, classic 80s movie, and I pulled up Rotten Tomatoes like 3 in to see where I was, because Kevin kept going 90, above 90, and it's like, oh, I wonder where mine is. This is my highest ranking one at like 80. And that is Flash Gordon.
Nice. Old school.
Like, just a super fun action adventure movie with the whole soundtrack is just Queen, just freaking rocking it. You want to talk about a good 80s movie with a theme song? Flash Gordon, my friends. I've watched it, I don't know, a half dozen times. I watched it on the night where I met my current wife, Dan. To have that in our same 10 list or whatever. Like, it's so good. Like, I love it. It is very cheesy, a little campy. Like, if you can't stand that, don't go in. But just Flash Gordon.
Dan or Amanda, have you seen this one?
I haven't, no.
I've watched Ted, which references a lot of that counts. That's fun.
So maybe a blind spot for all of us. I've seen parts, but I don't think I've seen it in its entirety from one end to the other. So I'll add that one to the list. Amanda, 25.
I don't know how much love I'm going to get for this, but I'm kind of out of the 90s.
How are you kind of out of the 90s?
1989.
That's out of the 90s.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Two seemingly dumb teens struggle to prepare a historical presentation with the help of a time machine.
So we got the time aspect going on here.
Keanu Reeves. Boom.
All you're going to say?
Yes.
You don't need to defend it?
I mean, it's amazing. Even like how they speak to each other is like elevated, even though they're kind of dumb. You know what I mean? They're a little clueless. But even how they speak to each other is amazing. Their interaction with other people too is super cool. Their weird little quirks. Wild Stallions, all right, the most epic air guitaring possible happening throughout. Awesome music, super cool 80s vibe, and yeah, I dig it.
Thoughts on Bill and Ted from anybody?
Yes! Like, this movie is a staple of my childhood. Like I think, as dumb as they are, like the moment where he tricks, what was it, his dad with the pre-recorded cassette player thing is one of the greatest things in time travel history. But this is a movie that I work in a college town, which a bunch of 22-year-olds who have never heard of this movie series, and I go, no, this is where Keanu Reeves started, and they go, no, that was The Matrix, and it's like, no. The Matrix was controversial because of this movie. Like, wait, you're gonna put that dumb guy in The Matrix? It's insane to me that Keanu Reeves is this big mega blockbuster action star, and people now have forgotten where he came from.
I'm gonna make some T-shirts for us, Matt, that say "Never Forget," and it's got Bill and Ted on the front.
Sitting on top of that time machine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so from Bill and Ted in 1989, I'm going to go forward into the 90s. Since you weren't in the 90s, I'll go there. I'm actually going to be in 1991 for two picks, and this is the first of those. I guess somewhat fitting. Jonathan Demme film Silence of the Lambs at my number 25. Possibly the first horror/thriller that I had ever seen. I had seen horror films, I had seen slasher films and the like, but I had not seen any type of psychological or horror thriller, I don't think, at this point in my life. So that was kind of a new thing for me, and I was definitely blown away by Silence of the Lambs. And just an interesting story, interesting characters, the stuff of nightmares, I guess. But Silence of the Lambs for me at number 25. Amanda, any thoughts?
Gary Oldman.
Dan, any thoughts on Silence of the Lambs? Somebody's already had this on their list, I believe.
I think it might have been me.
Okay.
One of the greatest, obviously. I think one of the few films that had Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Movie at the Academy Awards, and rightfully so. And of course, I forget the director's name, who just recently passed away.
Jonathan
Demme. It's legitimately one of the greatest movies, probably American movies for sure, ever made. So, yeah, definitely.
All right. That means it's your turn, Dan, for your number 25.
For my number 12, I think we're also going to talk about a movie that's also been mentioned in this countdown. I think, Kevin, you had it on your list. I could be mistaken. But it is one of my current favorite directors, and I don't think I've talked about him yet so far with the top 100, but I'm going with my favorite film of 2011, and that is Drive, by Nicholas Winding Refn, another Ryan Gosling movie, so maybe we should have bet how many Ryan Gosling movies would be in our top 3. But it just, to me, it is style personified in every means. Just so well directed, such a fascinating soundtrack. One of the best car chases ever was the opening of this movie. But I don't know. I was this movie just encapsulated basically everything I wanted it to be, and I love it. It's the look, the style, Gosling's jacket. It's just, they're so meticulously put together, and yeah. So it's my number 25.
Mm-hmm.
You a fan of the jacket, Amanda?
Digging the jacket. He's always got some real nice jackets.
Yeah, he's a jacket guy. I think this is the favorite film for me from Refn, because I haven't liked most of his other stuff, but I did like Drive quite a bit. So, yeah, I can understand that pick for sure. Matt, have you seen Drive?
I don't think I have.
Check it out sometime. It's good stuff for sure. Let's go to something you have seen, Matt. What's your number 24?
Oh, shoot, I probably have seen that one. Okay, so for the next 5, it's a very specific chunk, and I know that it overlaps into 2 episodes. These are only movies that I watched during crappy movie night, bad movie night, whatever you want to call it, like that I started in my high school or my college years. And so they're all bad movies, but my watching them is some of my favorite memories of movie watching experiences in my life. And so just a heads up, almost none of them are on Rotten Tomatoes. They're movies that when you go to type it in, you have to get about 12 to 13 letters in on IMDb before it guesses anywhere near the right movie. For all of them. It's great. I love it. They're great movies. And my number 24 is Warriors of the Wasteland. Your biggest named guy in Warriors of the Wasteland is Fred Williamson. You've seen him in a few movies before, I'm sure. But mostly it's like this Mad Max inspired, like semi-post-apocalyptic movie. Like some people are using guns. Fred Williamson uses a bow and like it has exploding arrowheads. At one point he unscrews an arrowhead and just kind of casually tosses it over his shoulder, and it blows up 3 dudes that run on camera right as he's like unscrewing it, like that he didn't know where. It's just unmitigated action. There are a couple of weird ones in Warriors of the Wasteland. That's probably why it's the lowest on this block of 5. But it's so good and it's so much fun, and I can't recommend it enough.
I'm trying to remember if I've seen this or not.
See, there's going to be a couple of them that you watched because you were at Bad Movie Night a bunch.
Yeah,
but
and that title sounds so familiar, so I think that might be one that I actually did see. But Fred Williamson, yeah, I've seen this one. So I need to revisit Warriors of the Wasteland because I do remember that being a lot of fun. Amanda, seen it? No? Okay.
I'm more than willing to bring over like any of these bad movies to watch them so that Amanda can experience, what makes me.
This will be right up her alley. She'd love it.
Do it.
All right, Amanda, what's your 24?
I don't know if I need to say a bunch about this, but it's very in line with my last pick. This is 1992's Wayne's World.
From
Amazing
Bill and Ted's
soundtrack.
to Wayne's World.
Yeah. Amazing soundtrack. Some amazing, iconic stuff in here. And it's just fun. It's super fun. And it's super close to home. This is Aurora, right? And you can't get any better than 2 dudes playing hockey in the street and having their own public cable access TV show in their basement.
Dan, what's better, Bill and Ted or Wayne's World?
Bill and Ted Bogus Journey. That's my choice. I like the sequel more. I mean, there's not many funnier sequences than Bill and Ted facing off against death in different games of chess. Yeah, one of the funniest moments ever. So, yeah.
Matt, what do you think, Wayne's World or Bill and Ted?
Oh, actually, it's interesting because someone at work, me at work, I brought up that there's this discussion of doing a Bill and Ted 3, and I got into a talk with someone who was older than me who could really remember these because no one younger than me does, and I had the realization actually that I think a Wayne's World 3 would be a better choice because like Bill and Ted, I feel like Bill and Ted doesn't have anything to say, but Wayne's World where public access is gone, and so now they're the public access is dying, and they're trying to do like a webisode thing, like millennials, because for whatever reason Hollywood hates the next generation hardcore. What the hell, Cars 3? What the hell, CBS? But just this whole weird you're old man, millennials are doing everything on the internet, and they're all like, no man, I still love music. I think there's a lot more to explore there than there is with Bill and Ted. And so I'm going to have to go with Wayne's World for that reason alone.
Would Garth keep his long hair?
Always.
And he could keep his glasses. Those are popular again. They weren't even cool back then. They're cooler now.
He might even have that moment where like he sees another Garth in the millennial crowd that has the same glasses, and he goes, "Oh man!" And then maybe he updates his style to an older style so that he's not modern. Like the jokes write themselves. Wayne's World 3. Where are you at?
So easy.
For the record, this is all this information and creativity. We've got to trademark that. That's property of Cinema Geeks, so don't go steal.
Yeah, man, you could have that if I get the movie.
For free.
All right, I'm gonna stay with my 1991 theme for my number 24. I was there with Silence of the Lambs, and I will stay there for my pick, I guess, within this franchise, which I'm going to the Terminator franchise, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991. From James Cameron, but the whole franchise Terminator is what I'm representing here at my number 24 pick.
You're too late because Dan already did it.
All right, Terminator, my number 24. I'll stop talking.
Yep, do it.
All right, Dan, what do you got?
Wait, I did a Terminator already? Or am I doing Terminator?
You did it last episode.
Did he? I don't know. Taking the wind right out of my sails there.
That's what I do.
I had to represent Arnold somewhere, so this is how I got him in Terminator 2.
There you go.
All right.
Very nice. All right. I am going to go with my number 24 pick. I'm going with an Akira Kurosawa film, probably the first one I think I've ever seen, and so by far my favorite. The movie that kind of defines what it is to be an epic, and that is Seven Samurai. Probably a movie that's been remade more than any other movie in history, from Magnificent Seven to Magnificent Seven's remake to all the different Japanese remakes of it as well. A classic story of obviously seven samurai who look to protect this village, and it's just like, it's Akira Kurosawa, this filmmaking at his top echelon movie that has obviously hugely impacted the medium and still does today. It is quite long, and it's not necessarily a movie that you're going to sit down and watch on a Friday night. It's over 200 minutes or so. So it does take some time. It is slowly paced. It may not be for everyone, but I love samurai films. And if you love samurai films, you're going to love Kurosawa. And there's a lot of people may have different favorites. Seven Samurai might be cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason because it's a great film. So that's what it is for me.
Matt, have you seen this one?
I don't think I've ever seen any Kurosawa movies, and that is to my detriment, I know.
We almost looked this up after we watched the remake of the Magnificent Seven film. We were going to look up the original one and the original Magnificent Seven title and the Seven Samurai, but we never got around to it, so maybe we should add that back into the mix. So I've never heard much bad said about it.
That's going to have to be like a rainy Sunday afternoon.
Something to keep us in for that long, for sure. All right, Matt. Man, we're getting down to the end here. Number 23.
All right. My number 23 is a movie that almost no one's ever heard of with a cast you don't know. Only one of them is even pictured on IMDb. That's Miles O'Keefe, and that is the movie Phantom Raiders. It's a 1988 movie that is about how it's a total Cold War film where like yada 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 some like soldiers go rogue to go over and fight a bunch of commies or whatever. Like literally, there's an hour-long sequence where it's like a guy would run on the screen and then get gunned down by 60 dudes. Like it's just guns. There's like a 20-minute like this is the setup of the movie, and then it's just an hour of just gun shooting. It is so dumb, so fun, so great. Like it's hilarious because it's like 2 or 3 like old salt war guys that like we're getting too old for this, so they like get some younger guys to fill in their ranks, and their final training thing, like they have like a training montage, and their final training thing is that they gotta do this zip line while there's an explosion 100 feet away from them. There's no guns, there's zip line, explosion behind them, and it like in the movie thing, it almost looks like the behind the scenes of doing a crappy rap video where they're like, okay, now zip down, cue the explosion. And like, it's so good. Like, I love this really dumb movie. It's so much fun.
That reminded me of so many other movies that I saw at those things, and I had thoughts of, yeah, I'll get into it later. Amanda, I want to see what your other picks are, Matt, before I comment too much. Amanda, what's your number 23?
1990s Home Alone. Donald Trump aside, Was that the second one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Home Alone, who do I need to explain this to? Probably nobody. Everybody's seen it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good.
Yeah. One comment in a recent Adventure Zone episode. And Adventure Zone, is a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. If you don't listen to it, you should. It's like one of the best podcasts ever. One of the guys, and this is a bonus episode, so it's kind of cheating. Sorry. One of the guys does a dungeon adventure, and all of the traps are very clearly just lifted one by one out of Home Alone, like spikes on the stairs and a giant paint cans on a rope. It's so perfect, and it's great, and I love it.
And I mean, who doesn't love a movie where the main character's name is Kevin? So.
Oh jeez. The villains here are so amazing, though, too. I mean, the Wet Bandits can't be beat. They're hilarious.
By an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old.
So hardcore. I mean, so much of this is painful, too. Like, the iron in the face, stepping on the broken glass shards in bare feet. So much is painful, but it's so satisfying.
Macaulay Culkin before he went off the deep end.
Before Party Monster?
All right, for my number 23, I will see Amanda's animation picks and up it, I guess, because I'm going to go to a 90 animation pick that you have not mentioned yet. Let's go to the year 1994 for The Lion King at my number 23. I had to pick something from the Disney quote-unquote Renaissance, and Lion King is the one that jumped to the top for me. I do have a lot of love for Aladdin, Little Mermaid, but I think Lion King might be the better movie out of the three. So Lion King, I don't think there's much that needs to be said. It's all been said before. We've heaped praises on this in different episodes throughout Geekcast Radio's history. So Lion King, number 23. Dan?
Yeah, all-time great. It was, I forget where it ranked in our top 100 animated films, but it was very high up there.
Yeah.
My number 23. Oddly, I feel like I've actually had a few films I talked about today that I have articles now on Geekcast Radio, and this is another one, and that is Bicycle Thieves. One of the first, I think, foreign films I've ever watched, and it's a very simple story, one that actually kind of been told in different ways, almost a fable-esque, of just a man who loses his bicycle and the major impact that has. And it's just, it's such a powerful story within that, a very great father and son story. And then it's, you have a really well made movie. One of the best sequences is just two people in in the restaurant eating dinner, and it just works. And maybe not sound fantastic, but it is such a moving sequence. So I think, like, if you're looking to get into classic French films, if you have that urge, there's a lot of strange places to start. But I think Bicycle Thieves is a really good place to start because it's very, I think, welcoming, and it sometimes some of the French films can get very difficult to watch, or they're overly complicated or kind of too artsy, as some may say. Bicycle Thieves, I think, is very much more of a realistic approach, and I think even relatable to today. So,
what year was that?
Italian.
Italian.
I was gonna say,
Thank you.
I watched it as part of my my Italian classes in college, and I was like, are we thinking of the same movie? We are, definitely. Great movie, but it's Italian. 1948.
Italian. Yeah.
All right.
Not French. I am completely wrong. Yeah, that's one of those foreign countries. Australia, I think. Yeah.
At least it's a Romance language. They're very similar.
But that makes me interested, Dan, because I think a lot of people do have maybe a block or barriers when it comes to certain types of movies. I know some people won't watch. For example, since we're doing the Miyazaki spotlight, some people won't watch anime films, or some people won't watch foreign language films or black and white films. So I think that's interesting. If people are worried about that, it might be a good entry into some more foreign language films and kind of expose or open up some doors to people that are looking for more films to get into. So awesome. Matt, 22.
My number 22 is Karate Cop, which I think is the only one of my bad movie block that is actually a franchise, if you can call it such. The sequel to Omega Cop, which I think is the story of The Last Cop, and then Karate Cop is the story of also still The Last Cop. This movie might be the first one that kicked it off proper, where we stopped doing, like, the first one we did that wasn't, like, meant to be a big Hollywood blockbuster. Is definitely just a straight to DVD cheapo movie that I'm sure hit theaters, but nowhere that I ever saw. It stars Ron Marchini, who I thought at the time was a bigger actor because we just picked up like, I don't know, a dozen $1 movies and he was in like a third of them. But he's only in like 11 movies ever, including like one internet thing, I think. So like he's not well known, but he's a decent karate guy. The biggest name guy, of course, David Carradine, plays like an evil bartender who tries to serve our protagonist John Travis, the last cop on Earth, tries to serve him like a chili that's made out of like rats or humans or both. It's just a fun, just like weirdly quotable action movie, post-apocalyptic, about the last cop in a world that's dying because of sunspots, I think. And there's an enemy called Snaker who can't talk, and so it sounds like his name is Schnegle, because every time he says his name, it sounds like he says Schnegle. And the lead villain is like fucking. It looks so much like Ron Jeremy, like so much like Ron Jeremy. Like this movie is so good. It's hilarious, and I've watched it a dozen times. And
I mean, if someone wasn't sold by that description, I don't know what you got to do.
Mega Cop has Adam West in it too, as like the leader of the cops.
Nice, not the police chief.
I mean, yeah, probably the police chief, but it really is just the leader of the cops because it's so weird and disorganized. It doesn't make sense.
Nice. Amanda, your second to last pick. What do you got?
1993. They do move in herds. Jurassic Park.
Well, Jurassic Park. I knew that was going to be your next Jeff Goldblum film, only because I couldn't think of any other one that would be warranted. So, why right now Jurassic Park?
It's just like a childhood staple. I mean, it's something that I've seen 1,000 times that I'm going to want to keep seeing. It's a great franchise. It's even continuing now. I mean, how amazing is that? And I think that it's something that everybody knows, and you can't deny how awesome this movie is. It's terrifying, thrilling, awe-inspiring, and it's got some great moments, a ton of cool, quotable things happening here too, and yeah, gotta do it.
Definitely some awe-inspiring moments that you weren't thinking you would see on that level in that film, and anybody that didn't know about Jurassic Park a couple years ago certainly does now. Matt, thoughts on Jurassic Park?
A great movie. Like, yeah, thumbs up.
All right. My number 22 goes directly to that statement that I made earlier about films that I like way more than the general public does. I'm going to go...
Isn't that what all these things are on the list here?
No, because a lot of these films are universally loved. You just said Jurassic Park. Who doesn't like Jurassic Park?
But this is our own personal list, so how can you go take something from your own personal list and go, I like this more than everybody else, you guys?
No, I'm just saying...
that makes sense.
It's because...
It's his list. He likes it more.
Well, no, but there's...
likes it more than me.
It's self-evident, right? I mean,
No, because there's a lot of these films that are universally loved, and this is one that is not. So that's why I'm saying I think I'm a little higher on it than maybe
Why would you
I
have to
should
point
be,
that out, though?
I don't know. I guess I shouldn't have. But just because, like I said, it related back to a conversation that was going on Twitter and that comment I made earlier. So I'm just connecting all the dots, Amanda. Let me connect all the dots.
You need to disconnect from Twitter every once in a while, sir.
All right. I'm going with Kevin Reynolds' 2002 film Count of Monte Cristo for number 22. I'll just let Mr. Roger Ebert say why I like Count of Monte Cristo. Quote, it's a movie that incorporates piracy, Napoleon in exile, betrayal, solitary confinement, secret messages, escape tunnels, swashbuckling, comic relief, a treasure map, Parisian high society, and sweet revenge, and brings it in at under 2 hours with performances by good actors who are clearly having fun. This is the kind of adventure picture the studios churned out in the golden age. So traditional, it almost feels new. I cannot think of a revenge story that I like more than The Count of Monte Cristo, and I've never shown this to anybody who didn't appreciate this film. I remember nobody that I knew in college had seen this, and I showed it to like 2 or 3 different groups of friends in college, and every time they were all very much in favor of it. I showed it to Amanda, and she appreciated it.
I'd already seen it.
You'd already seen it, but you liked it. I think I showed this to my mom and sister, and they liked it. So I think it's a fun film to watch, and maybe I'm just a a big Jim Caviezel fan or just a fan of the actual story it's based off of. But I love The Count of Monte Cristo, and I think more people should watch it and talk about it. So, I mean, Kevin Reynolds hasn't been able to do anything besides maybe Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves that's been anywhere remotely as good or anything like that. But I thought he caught lightning in a bottle here with Jim Caviezel and now my mind's going blank. Guy Pearce. Guy Pearce doing what Guy Pearce does best, be a jerk. So, Count of Monte Cristo, my number 22. Dan?
For my number 22, I think Matt mentioned 80s movies that had great theme songs, and I think he already brought this one up. But I think when you think of that, maybe the first one that comes to mind is Ghostbusters, and of course that's my number 22. A movie I loved as a kid, I love as an adult. It is the ultimate genre mashup of comedy, science fiction, horror, and Bill Murray. And I loved the cartoon as a kid. Just loved the equipment that they came up with. Just a well put together movie that is still enjoyed today. And it's, I think its cast is a big reason why it works. And I think even as a kid, I probably ended up liking. I think as a kid, I liked Ghostbusters 2 more. Mainly just because it had a walking Statue of Liberty and they had a Nintendo pad that they used to move it. That's pretty much it. But as an adult, I can recognize that Ghostbusters is a much better film. So it's my number 22.
Amanda, you already had, or somebody already had Ghostbusters, didn't they?
I had Ghostbusters on the last episode, I believe.
All right.
I had Ghostbusters a while ago.
So some universal love, but maybe not all in the top 30. So nobody arguing against Ghostbusters here. That means there's only time for one more pick for everybody in this section of the countdown. That means it's all of our number 21 picks, starting with you, Matt.
Yeah, I made a mistake when I said Karate Cop was the first one, because this one was definitely the very first non-Hollywood movie. But I don't know if it really counts because it was a kung fu movie, and those are just always great, right? And that is a secret kung fu movie, because it's The Guy with Secret Kung Fu. This movie is bonkers. Like, at one point there's like 2 different guys who wear bright red, and like we had trouble telling them apart the first, 2 or 3 times we watched it. And so like one of them became Ketchup Mustard Man because he had yellow as well. So like we named all the characters ourselves. Like there's Ketchup Mustard Man, there's the very powerful demon who's half man, half vampire. There's like a classic, the guy who makes coffins. There's always a guy who makes coffin in a kung fu movie. Like at the end when the guys are jumping and doing their kung fu poses, there are airplane sounds superimposed over the movie. I don't know why. They're airplane guys now. And as far as I can tell, the secret kung fu move is to knock the powerful demon into a coffin and throw that coffin through a wall. Secret kung fu technique.
I could listen to you describe movie plots all day, Matt.
I could do it all day. People have to stop me. It's so much fun. Like, this movie is so much fun, guys.
The Cinema Geeks spin-off podcast. Amanda, last pick of the day. What you got?
This is 1984, and this movie also was victim to the remake. Did not dig the remake too much, but the original is another one where it's got an amazing song just for the movie, and that's Footloose. Kevin friggin' Bacon, John Lithgow, Chris Penn learning how to dance. It's got a ton of cool stuff to say about society and religion and parenting and teen angst and fitting in and all that good stuff. It's just a solid story.
Dan, thoughts on Footloose?
Cut Loose. No, I don't think I've ever saw the original. Embarrassingly, I did see the remake in theaters, so there's that.
Why'd you do that to yourself?
I don't know.
I have not seen the original either, so that's 2 of us that have not seen the original. Matt, have you seen Footloose?
You haven't seen Footloose, Kevin?
No.
Why did you say it like that?
You said it like I should have.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about classic movies that a lot of people love, this is definitely one of them. I haven't seen it, but is that 2 movies in a row with a protagonist named Kevin for you? Or I guess one's the actor and one's the character, but still.
Jurassic Park was in the middle, but I mean, pretty dang close.
Oh, okay.
So none of us have seen Footloose except for you. You're the resident expert on Footloose.
Dude, my first tap dance when I was like 8 years old was to the Footloose theme song.
Well, why don't you recreate
Sure.
I remember the first part.
that? All right, so we're going to have to video that and put it out there for people to watch.
Get me some tap shoes.
All right, for my last pick today, my number 21, I'm going to go to a franchise pick from 2003. And I know a lot of people have other favorite trilogies, but this one has to be in the top 2 or 3 of any discussion about trilogies. I'm going to go to Lord of the Rings, Return of the King for number 21, or the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's absolutely fantastic, whether you watch the regular ones or the extended ones, which I did once watch all 3 of them back to back to back extended versions in college, and that was a long viewing party with about 8 of us, and I think a lot of junk food and pizza and chips and stuff. So, but I mean, Lord of the Rings is awesome. There's so many characters to love. There's so many parts to be drawn to, and the visuals are amazing. I think definitely when it comes to like big budget blockbuster type films, it's easily probably the best trilogy of all time, unless depending on what happens with the Planet of the Apes film that's coming out this year, that might be a trilogy that could rival it. But I think Lord of the Rings just is amazing. So that's my number 21. Amanda, any love for Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, like I want to go watch it right now, but I know that I'm gonna fall asleep like in 30 minutes. So
Matt, what do you think? Lord of the Rings?
I put it way low on my list. I like, because you said like this is one of the best trilogies of all time. I was like, yeah, where did I put it? And it's like I put it in like 60. It's solid. It's great. It's one of the most successful fantasy movies ever. Like I don't know. Like I wish every movie that's in the fantasy, like medieval fantasy genre, could do as well as Lord of the Rings. Like then we might get a second King Arthur, Sword of the whatever movie.
Dan, what camp are you? Is Returning the King the best out of the 3, or do you prefer a different one?
Man, it's tough. I think Return of the King. I don't know. Actually, like you, I saw all 3 extended versions, but actually in the theater they did a marathon like the December that The Hobbit was coming out. So I sat in. It was like a 12-hour day of watching Lord of the Rings, which is probably the last one. You're just a little bit. You're like, oh man, this is tiring, but they are masterpieces by a stretch of the imagination.
It wasn't one of the ones where they put then The Hobbit at the end to like watch the new movie after you've been sitting in the theater for 12 hours.
No, thank goodness. There were some like pieces of Peter Jackson where he would like introduce things and talk about things, but nothing from The Hobbit, which would have just ruined it. So
absolutely. All right, Dan, time for the last pick of today from anybody. What is your number 21?
So you talked about having to choose one of the movies from the Disney Renaissance, and I chose one as well. And I thought this would be one film that would be on both of our lists, but based upon what you said, I don't think that'll be true. And I went with 1992's Aladdin. It's if I've probably said this about other movies, but it's probably a movie we watched more than anything. Just rewatching it not too long ago as well. I bought it on Blu-ray, and I still remember like every single line, every song. Robin Williams is just fantastic. It's just, I mean, it may not be the film of Lion King, but when I'm just talking about favorites, it's one that holds a special place in my heart. And great characters. I even loved the cartoon series when that was out. So it's I love Aladdin. It's just it's one of those special movies.
Dan, I think you're right. I think I'm being untrue to myself by not having Aladdin here alongside or maybe even higher than Lion King, because I think deep down I do prefer, like if you're going to ask me if I can only have one film, like the classic scenario where all the rest of the Disney films are going to disappear and I can only have one from that period, I would keep Aladdin probably. So maybe my fault there for not including it, because I do love Aladdin. Amanda?
I will hold my thoughts.
All right. Matt, any thoughts on Aladdin?
I had it higher than Lion King in my list, but neither one of them are in my top 20, where I do have 2 Disney films at least.
Oh, so the plot thickens, the cliffhanger here to see what Disney films did make Matt's top 20. So that's it for today. We've revealed our 30 through 21. Matt, real quick, what's the rundown?
All right. Doctor Strangelove, Iron Man 3, Captain America 3, Love Actually, The Notebook, Flash Gordon, Warriors of the Wasteland, Phantom Raiders, Karate Cop, and The Guy with Secret Kung Fu.
Amanda. your picks for today.
Dances with Wolves, Mulan, The Fox and the Hound, Independence Day, Hook, Bill and Ted, Their Excellent Adventure, Wayne's World, Home Alone, Jurassic Park, and Footloose.
All right, my 10 were Fight Club, Rain Man, Gangs of New York, E.T., The Philadelphia Story, Silence of the Lambs, Terminator 2, Lion King, The Count of Monte Cristo, and Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Dan?
I had Wages of Fear, Taxi Driver, Stand By Me, Man on Wire, Back to the Future, Drive, Seven Samurai, Bicycle Thieves, Ghostbusters, and Aladdin.
All right, Dan, at the beginning of the show, we talked about a wager on how many films would hit all 4 of our top 30s, and you and I were the highest with 5 and 6. How are you feeling about that right now?
Not very good, I'm not going to lie. So we'll see.
There was not a lot of crossover in that section, for sure. We're going to have to wait and see what comes out in our top 20s. Maybe that's where all the crossover will happen, or maybe there just won't be much crossover. There's a lot of films to pick from in the whole of all-time films, so definitely kind of hard to see where we're all going to go with this one. Amanda, any thoughts so far with only 20 spots remaining?
Oh, man. I think there's going to be some shocks.
Some shock and awe?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you have to let us know if you agree or disagree, or what films you liked most that you've just heard in this section of the countdown, or what films you're scratching your head about. Let us know those comments by going to geekcastradio.com, finding the episode post, and posting your comments there. We'll definitely respond to you there. We would also greatly appreciate iTunes reviews, and it will also enter you into a contest to win 6 movies. And you can also interact with us via social media. You can either leave a comment on the Facebook page for Geekcast Radio Network, or you can tweet to the show directly at Cinema Geekcast. If you have a question for any of us individually, or just want to start up a conversation with any of us and ask us more about our top 100s, you can tweet to us directly. Amanda, how do they do that for you?
At Hard Candy Mandy, eyes, no eyes.
Dan?
At Movie Revolt.
Mr. Matt Fridley.
I am at Fridley Scent.
And I am at Optimus Solo. Also, definitely stay in touch with us on Facebook and Twitter, and keep an eye on that, because we will be posting some things coming up here in the future, ways that you can impact the show and help us make decisions on future content and spotlights and things like that. So stuff like that is coming, so just keep your eyes peeled to the social media so you can be alerted when you have those opportunities. All right, that's it for us for this week. Tune in next week for another chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks.